Okay, hi everyone, this is a video for Act 1, Scene 2 of Romeo and Juliet. Now in this scene, the most important detail that we have at the beginning here is that this scene gives us a lot of information about the theme around parental love and guidance. The reason being that this scene is predominantly between Juliet's father, Lord Capulet, and Count Paris, that is, Juliet's suitor. And in this scene, they're talking about the arrangement of Juliet's marriage to Count Paris as a very eligible bachelor of the time and somebody of good status for Juliet to marry. And this arrangement is being made with her father. And it says here, Paris is eager to marry Juliet, and old Capulet invites him to meet her at a family ball. The servant who should deliver the invitations asks Romeo and Benvolio to read them for him, which gives Benvolio an idea. And that idea is to invite themselves to the Capulet party. So let's just read the scene itself, and then we'll have some key annotations here that I'll draw your attention to. But Montague is bound as well as I, in penalty alike, and 'tis not hard, I think, for men so old as we to keep the peace. Remember, in the previous scene, the prince gave the ultimatum, the warning that if the two families disturb the peace of the streets again, he will have them killed. They will pay for that with their lives. So they know that they need to keep the peace between them. Paris says to Capulet, "Of honourable reckoning are you both, and pity 'tis you lived at odds so long. But now, my lord, what say you to my suit?" So, Lord Capulet, what do you say to my offer? "But saying o'er that I have said before. My child is yet a stranger in the world. She hath not seen the change of 14 years. Let 2 more summers wither in their pride, ere we may think her ripe to be a bride." Now this has some really important quotations here. So the first one is this one. My child is yet a stranger in the world. This is a metaphor. And this shows that idea of parental love and guidance from Lord Capulet. He's being protective of his daughter. He doesn't want to marry her off too soon. At this point, when he's saying she's a stranger in the world, what he's implying is that she hasn't seen enough. She doesn't have enough experience yet to be somebody's wife and bearing children. So he pleads really with Paris to wait another couple of years before she is mature enough, he feels, to be married. And again, we've got this metaphor here too. Let 2 more summers wither in their pride. So let 2 more summers pass. There's this idea of wither and ripe. So there's this imagery to do with fertility. She will be ripe to be a bride. So your annotation there is imagery of fertility. And it reminds us of Juliet's sexuality, her role to bear children, her role to continue the legacy of the families as they build together. And this represents this transition for Juliet from innocence to experience, the idea that she's now being expected to grow up, the idea that she's expected to be a woman. But to some extent, Lord Capulet is protecting his daughter from this at this stage. Paris, of course, says, "Younger than she, our happy mother's maid." So Paris is reminding us of some of the expectations of the time contextually, of the role and duty that a young woman like Juliet is expected to make, because he's saying younger women are often mothers. Capulet rebuffs this and again tries to protect his daughter. He says, "And too soon marred are those so early made." So he's worried about the psychological damage it could do to his daughter. She's too soon marred. She's too soon damaged if we do this to her too early. "Earth hath swallowed all my hopes, but she's the hopeful lady of my earth." And see this language here, this hyperbole, this hopeful lady of my earth, that exaggeration about how much he loves his daughter, represents Capulet's love, his care, his adoration for his daughter. This idea that he really worships her and idolises her. He says, "But woo her, gentle Paris, get her heart." So he expects Paris to be this courtly lover who will court her, who will woo her, and she will therefore learn to love him. And that's what he's keen for. "My will to her consent is but a part." So he's saying, my consent is just one of these bits. I need her to love you in order to approve this. I need her to approve it herself. "And she agreed within her scope of choice, lies my consent and fair according voice. This night I hold an old accustomed feast, whereto I have invited many a guest. Such as I love and you among the store, one more most welcome, makes my number more." So he's saying, I'm going to hold a party, please come along. I'd like you to meet her. "At my poor house look to behold this night, earth-treading stars that make dark heaven light." And you can see again that I've highlighted that as an important quotation. So he says, "At my house look to see earth-treading stars. So this is a reference to celestial imagery. Remember, celestial imagery is any imagery in a kind of space and cosmic dimension, things to do with heaven and space and the stars, and it often evokes notions of fatalism. So there's this idea of fate, something great in their destiny is going to happen this evening. But when he says that make dark heaven light, there's a juxtaposition here between dark and light, and there's this sense of danger and tension, as though Capulet himself is foreshadowing the tension and danger to come in Romeo and Juliet's lives and in their love, even though, of course, he doesn't know that they're going to meet this evening. But he's almost suggesting that he foresees something in their fate, something in the stars. Such comfort as do lusty young men feel when well apparelled April on the heel of limping winter treads, even such delight among fresh fennel buds shall you this night inherit at my house, hear all, see, and like her most, whose merit most shall be. Which on more view of many, mine being one, may stand in number, though in reckoning none. Come go with me, go, sirrah, trudge about, through fair Verona, find these persons out, whose names are written here, and he gives a paper to the servant, and to them say, my house, and welcome on their pleasure stay. Notice here how Lord Capulet is speaking in verse, and actually if you look, he's got rhymes such as say and stay, one and none and things like that. So there's this sense of verse in the way that Lord Capulet speaks. However, listen now to how the servant speaks. Find them out whose names are written here. It is written that the shoemaker should meddle with his yard, and the tailor with his last, the fisher with his pencil, and the painter with his nets. But I am sent to find those persons whose names are here writ, and can never find what names the writing person here hath writ. I must to the learned, in good time. So he doesn't speak in verse at all. He's speaking here in prose, in normal sentences. There's no sense of rhyme or rhythm here. And Shakespeare uses that to represent status. Okay, it represents the lowly status of the servant. And a key plot point here is the idea that the servant, in fact, can't read. So he's going to have to pass this note to somebody else in order to decipher the words. And that is how the Montagues find out about the Capulet's party. Enter Benvolio and Romeo. Tut, man, one fire burns out, another's burning. One pain is lessened by another's anguish. Turn giddy and be holp by backward turning. One desperate grief cures with another's languish. Take thou some new infection to thy eye, and the rank poison of the old will die. So in this metaphor here, this kind of imagery of decay here, infection, poison, die, Benvolio is suggesting that if Romeo becomes cursed with a new love, that of his old love, his unrequited love for Rosaline, will die. The use of the word infection is interesting, a new infection to your eye, possibly foreshadowing the danger and corruption that is to come in Romeo's love for falling in love with Juliet. So there's this sense of foreboding, this sense of danger approaching, but equally this image of corruption and decay around love, this kind of duplicitous version of love where love is both pleasant but also sometimes sinister and sometimes corrupting. Your plantain leaf is excellent for that. For what, I pray thee? For your broken shin. Why, Romeo, art thou mad? Not mad, but bound more than a madman is. Shut up in prison, kept without my food, whipped and tormented, and godden, good fellow. Godden, I pray, sir, can you read? I, mine own fortune, in my misery. Perhaps you have learned it without book, but I pray, can you read anything you see? Ay, if I know the letters and the language. Ye say honestly, rest you merry. Stay, fellow, I can read. He reads the letter. Signor Martino and his wife and daughters, County Anselm and his beauteous sisters, the lady widow of Vitruvio, Signor Placentio and his lovely nieces, Mercutio and his brother Valentine, mine uncle Capulet, his wife and daughters, my fair niece Rosaline and Livia, Signor Valentino, and his cousin Tybalt, Lucio and the lively Helena, a fair assembly. Whither should they come? Up. Whither? To supper? To our house. Whose house? My master's. Indeed, I should have asked that before. Now, I'll tell you without asking. My master is the great rich Capulet, and if you be not of the house of Montagues, I pray, come and crush a cup of wine. Rest you merry. So here at the bottom, we can see that the Capulet party is to take place that evening. The servant has said, if you are not a Montague, you will be welcome. But Romeo is attracted to attending because, of course, he learns that Rosaline is in attendance. And so they decide that this is somewhere that they will go to as well in the hope of reuniting him with Rosaline. Benvolio says to him, at this same ancient feast of Capulets, sups fair Rosaline, who thou lovest. With all the admired beauties of Verona, go thither, and with unattainted eye, compare her face with some that I shall show, and I shall make you think thy swan a crow. So this again is an interesting line here, this interesting metaphor. I will make you think your swan is a crow. That light and dark imagery of a swan, often associated with white things, beautiful, innocence, goodness, and then the crow, that dark imagery, reminding him that that one that he currently worships, that swan, he'll soon forget about. He'll soon look on her as something ugly and unpleasant. When the devout religion of mine eye maintains such falsehood, then turn tears to fires. And these, who often drowned, could never die. Transparent heretics, be burnt for liars. One fairer than my love, the all-seeing sun, never saw her match, since first the world begun. Tut, you saw her fair, none else being by. So you only thought she was attractive when nobody else was around, Romeo. I will show you other women. Herself poised with herself in either eye. But in that crystal scales let there be weighed your lady's love against some other maid, that I will show you shining at this feast, and she shall scant show well that now seems best. I'll go along, no such sight to be shown, but to rejoice in splendour of mine own. And that's where the scene ends. So Romeo agrees to go along, but he basically is saying to Benvolio, there is absolutely no chance that I will see anybody as beautiful as Rosaline. And Benvolio takes it upon himself that that's going to be his mission. Okay, we'll end there. Thank you.